All right. Hey, everyone. Testing out my new software here. I know the light's a little bright. I got to fix that. But this is my new scene, everyone. Check this out. I'm green screening it. All right. And I can also press this button. Check that out, too. You can like and subscribe and all that. Savi, how are you? All right. This is the first time I'm broadcasting with this new software. So I'm just looking around here just to see like what I can see because I haven't streamed with this thing yet. So, okay, cool. All right, so I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger so I can see what's going on. All right, so welcome to the stream. All right, as you can see, I'm making some changes, and I have a few announcements to make. All right, so this view here will improve. All right, I'm just testing out the green screen. The light's a little bright. I know I need to adjust that, but if you're new to the stream, welcome. Let me explain to you how this works. So first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over the economic calendar, which I normally do. Then we're going to talk about charts, right? Because this is the forecasting stream. Now, I'm going to add some new streaming to my schedule, right? And I've talked about this before, but I never really gave any concrete scheduling because I wanted to make sure I can do it first. All right, so this is my goal. I'm going to actually, I'll get to that in a moment. Let me just explain how the stream works. We're going to do this. We're going to do the chart. Then we're going to get into the Trade Scanner Pro and see if there are any trades. Now, here's the thing. During this session, I normally look at the Trade Scanner Pro, but when I add my new streams to my routine, I'm going to trade during the market open. Okay, so that's a big change. I'm probably not going to stream the trades at this time. Now, I have a lot more to say about that, but so what I'm going to do in this session is I'm mostly going to go over analysis and forecasting, right? And we're going to look at Bitcoin like we normally do, but I'm also going to add some other markets. This light is kind of bright. I'm going to add some other markets like the NASDAQ, the S&P, and altcoins if people have requests. Now, hold on, let me see the chat here. Let me see people saying, cool. All right, there's everyone. Hussein, Nugs. All right, I can see everyone. Cool. And by the way, I'm back on Twitter. All right, I'm back on there, and I should be streaming on Rumble as well. Can I see all of these comments, or this is all I can see? Hold on, people. I'm just trying to see. I can't see everything over here. What's going on? No, I know there's more comments, and I can't see them. Hold on a second. Let me see if I can fix that. All right. So I know this thing needs some work. I got it, man. That light is really bothering me. Okay, I can't scroll my scroll bar here. Let's see. Okay. Oh, there we go. Okay, got it. All right, cool. Yeah, you like the thumbnail, right? Yeah. Took me 3 weeks to put those stupid things together. Put those together myself. All right. Anyway, yeah, I know. I got to fix this light. This light's really bothering me. Like I've this like this big bright. I mean, I'm bright to begin with, as go forth and multiply will tell you. I'm bald, pale, and handsome, as he likes to say, and the paleness is really showing off here, and I'm really reflecting over here. Not cool. So trust me, I understand what's going on. But I'm gonna have some more things going on here. Anyway. Let me press my cool little button here again. Guys, don't forget to like and subscribe and all that other stuff. See, I even got a button that can show that here. So let's first go over the economic calendar. And then before we get into the charts, I'll talk about the other plans that I have. All right. So first things first, economic calendar. Looks like what we have a couple of interesting points this week. First, we have, I believe it is Wednesday is the first one, and that's for the British pound. We have their CPI report, which is usually not a big market mover, so I wouldn't worry too much about that unless you trade Forex, but it probably won't really move much of the US dollar. Then we have GDP. I believe it's the annual GDP, which is not that important either. It's not a major market moving number, right? Then on Thursday, we have the CPI from Japan, which again could move Forex markets possibly, but I wouldn't really make a big deal out of that. right? That's Thursday. Also, there was something else on Thursday, and I can't remember it now. But I know that the Japanese CPI was one of the things. Maybe you guys can tell me. I know, I know. I am still bald and handsome. Thanks. I know, I know. I thought, when I ran tests, this looked better, and then I'm seeing the real thing here, and I'm like, man, that doesn't look good at all. So anyway, what am I going to do? Um, so in Friday, we have the core PCE number. All right. So that's an important number. Core, it's called core consumption. What is it? Uh, core personal consumption expenditures. That's what it is, right? Core PCE. And the Fed uses that number. So that's why it could be a market moving number. I mean, previously no one cared about core PCE, but I guess Powell must have mentioned it or something, and people make a big deal out of it. So that I believe it's an 8:30 a.m. Eastern time number. Double check the timestamp. It could be a 10 a.m. number. That one is weird. Sometimes they change it. I don't know. But the core PCE, that's on Friday. So keep an eye on that. So again, there was another one on Thursday. I can't remember. It wasn't like a major report, but it was worth mentioning, and I can't remember what it was now. All right, anyway. So yeah, I'm like reflecting. I'm like I blind myself with my reflection, man. Okay, anyway. So let me just. Can you? I hope you guys can't. Can you guys see that? Let me see. I can't see what you. Okay, I don't think you could see that. All right, because I have like a control monitor here where I'm controlling what goes on my screen. Okay, so that's the economic calendar. Let me know if you guys have any questions about that. Now, a couple other things. So let me mention a few things. So as you can see here, I changed my chart a little bit, right? And up here, as you can see, I have the orders, right? I can place orders on the chart, from TradingView. Now, this is what I plan to do as we continue with this. So I'm going to keep my 3 p.m. stream as I normally do because you guys always show up to my streams. So I'm going to keep that time slot. But I'm going to add 3 more time slots, right? I'm going to stream, this is the plan, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at the market open. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to trade using the Trade Scanner Pro at that time, but I'm not going to trade Bitcoin. So let me explain. Previously, we talked about how we were going to open up an account. I was going to open an account, put $1,000 in it, and trade on some exchange, right? MEXC seemed to be the most promising one. But then I came across some other stuff. And it seemed to me that there'd be a greater potential if we can trade something like the NASDAQ, right? The NASDAQ futures using a prop firm account. Now, I haven't really said much about prop firms, but I have spent a lot of time researching them, at least about a year. Okay, I've gone through a lot of little details, looking at all their rules, comparing prop firms, all that other stuff, right? And I've come to the conclusion that there is a value proposition there, although I am not a fan of prop firms, but there is something of value. So here's the new idea. What I want to do is I want to trade a prop firm evaluation account using the Trade Scanner Pro to see if I can beat the account. All right, we're going to trade the NQ though. All right, we're not going to trade Bitcoin. I mean, we could probably trade Bitcoin, but the problem is the Bitcoin futures, the actual CME futures, are horrible to day trade. The spreads are really wide, and the NQ is just so much better, and that's something that I actually trade. So we're going to use an eval account. All right, I have a $50,000 eval account. Now I'll explain all the details when we do this on Wednesday, and we'll see what we can do. Now, I don't expect to be able to beat an eval, in one day. It may take a couple of weeks. I may fail the eval. It's very possible. I haven't beaten any evals. This is the first time I'm actually doing this. So here's what we're going to do. Instead of being one of these fake gurus and being like, hey, man, I beat the eval behind the scenes, and then you never actually see any of that. And it's, oh, and by the way, here's the tool that I used. You can all buy it now, right? Instead of doing that, we're going to do it together on a live stream. So we're going to see if I can beat the eval or not, right? And I may not be able to. Again, this is an experiment. This is going to be a journey that we're all going to go on, right? And if I see people showing up and supporting the stream and subscribing and to the channel and all that kind of stuff, then that will obviously encourage me to continue with this idea on this path. But if I see like no one's showing up, no one's signing up for anything, and like whatever, then I probably won't continue on that schedule because it's not going to be worth it. That's a very valuable time, the market open, right, to stream for an hour. I would rather be doing something else than streaming at that time, but I think I can handle it. So, but I want to see support. I want to see people at least liking the channel or something, right? And I don't expect it to happen overnight either. Like, it's not like I expect, a couple of streams and, hey, man, where's my 100,000 followers? I'm not expecting that. I'm realistic. But I think after a few months, I should see some type of growth. I should be doing better numbers than I'm doing on this Monday stream. This Monday stream, I've been streaming for like 3 years, I think, at this time slot, and the numbers don't grow. So obviously my competitors, most of them stream every single day, and a lot of them stream the entire day. I can't do that. I'm not going to do that. So I'll do every other day. We'll see how it goes. All right. Hey, Milad, how are you? All right. Sorry for the reflection off my head. I mean, if this is bothering you, I'll just turn it off. I'll just turn off the camera. But anyway, I got to fix that, man. Not cool. I look ugly. I mean, it's not like I look great to begin with, but man, the glare is not cool. All right. So you guys following me so far? You guys, I mean, any comments? What do you guys think before we get into the analysis here? So that's my plan. We're going to trade the micro futures, the MNQ. I have an account set up, and I'm going to show it on Wednesday. Okay, and we're going to trade the Wednesday open and see if we could find any signals. There may be sessions where there's no real signals. We're going to work between the 1 minute and the 5 minute chart, and we're going to see what we can do. All right. Any comments on that? You guys let me know. All right. So let's move along here. By the way, if you're watching on Twitter, here's the numbers of people. Okay, cool. If you're watching on Twitter, do me a favor. Come over to YouTube and watch it on YouTube, man, because I need people to press the like button on YouTube because it helps spread around the stream to more people, from what I understand. So all of you, please just do me a favor. Press the like button because it lets the algorithm know that, there's interest in this stream and it's not a complete, waste of time. All right. Again, if you like the stream, of course, I would imagine if you're watching. All right. So let's move along here. Any comments or any questions about my changes, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear it. Now, let's talk about, we're going to do the analysis section now. We're going to talk about Bitcoin. We're going to talk about the NASDAQ. We're going to talk about the S&P because these are things that we're going to trade. And then we can talk about altcoins and things like that if you guys have some questions. And we'll try to do some Trade Scanner Pro for this stream. But like I said, I'm probably going to phase that out if I'm going to do the first hour, the opening of the day, and I'm going to place trades then there's really going to be no point in placing trades now. I'm especially not going to trade the eval account at this time. Okay. All right, guys. So let me know what you think. Let's make this chart bigger here. All right. And all right. So this is the analysis that I put on TradingView yesterday, right? And as you can see here, I wrote the illustration shows a pullback, right, back to the 78, 80K area. That was the bear flag break that I was anticipating. Now, as I was writing this article, here, I'm going to get rid of this little arrow. When I was writing the article, we were right here. Okay, we were basically right there. And I said, if you're looking to day trade, this is a long. I said it in the article. You can see the article, right? But I said, bigger picture, if we break the bear flag, if we break this trend line, basically, all right, which was still intact yesterday, then we have a flag formation. This is the flag formation, basically, okay? And it's still bearish because this, even though it's nice and strong right now, it looks beautiful, it can still potentially develop into a lower high because we have not taken out any of these highs, right, in the 90K area. Hussein, solid plan. Looking for, okay, cool. All right, glad you guys like it. Now, probably most of you will not be able to be here at the market open, when I do it, and that's okay. I'm looking to get new people anyway, right? So that's why I'm not canceling my 3 o'clock stream because that's when you guys show up. So I'm going to keep that, but just on Mondays. All right. So nothing changes for you guys really, except for the fixing of my shiny head. So back to my analysis here. basically the analysis that I wrote on TradingView covers two areas: the day trade, which I said possible longs, right? Go ahead and read the article. And then the swing trade idea, or the bigger picture, would be the break of the trend line, which obviously that's not in play right now, but this may still happen because this lower trend line is still intact, right? So if we pull back and we break it, I would not be surprised to see a test of low. And that can happen this week, possibly next week. Remember, it's the news catalysts that drive this thing. I have no idea why this market is up so big today. I mean, earlier today, the Dow was up over 1,000 points, right? The NASDAQ was up whatever. They were all up huge. I don't pay attention to why. All I know is they're strong. That's all I need to know. So you have to understand that. Remember where we were 3 weeks ago? Do you remember? Go back to my stream 3 weeks ago and watch the stream when the NASDAQ was getting hammered, right? Everything was getting hammered. Bitcoin was fooling around here. Do you remember that? Do you remember what I was saying in that stream? I said, now is the time to buy, right? Do you remember that? It's in the stream. It's still there. I don't delete anything. And look where we are since then. That was around 78, 79. We're now pushing what's the high here? 88.8. Okay. So this is the lower risk area. And that was a double bottom situation, right? And at the time, I was calling that and saying this is a time to at least take something, get into something. And you don't have to be so conservative either. And I said that you don't have to be extremely conservative because these are not high risk prices. These were like mid risk prices, right? And this is a nice little bounce off of that. Okay, cool. Now, it doesn't mean that the bear part is over because, like I said, this structure is still intact, right? That's a bearish structure. Now, what we're doing here is we're looking at the horizon for swing trades, right? This has nothing to do with investing, so don't be confused with investing, where people are like, oh, should I buy it now? No, probably not. The investment levels, again, 80K, 78K, 76K, if the market can get there. Maybe it gets there, maybe it doesn't. But the thing is, if we break this trend line, then I would anticipate that this scenario would be in play at that point. And I would be looking for another double bottom because you have this bottom, right? And I'd be looking for another double bottom right here in this area. Something like that. If we can get confirmation, that would be good for swing trades. That would also be good for investing. But when it comes to investing, of course, that's where dollar cost averaging could be in play. And 80K, 78, 76, 73, those are good levels for dollar cost averaging. I'm not going to go into all the details on that right now. I've talked about that in other streams, but that's where you'd want to do something like that. Okay? Current levels right now, for one, if you're long and you took a long as a swing trade, this is a place to take profits. Although there's no selling signal, there's nothing here. It's just bullish. It's just straight up, right? There's nothing here but solid green candle. But that's not what you need to be focused on, right? That's the problem that a common mistake that people make is they look at the chart and they just project what they see forward. And that's human nature. Okay, it's normal to do that, but you shouldn't do that because it's ineffective. What you want to pay attention to are the levels. The levels. This is something that people aren't really paying attention to. Well, the ignorant retail traders aren't typically paying attention to. So this 90K area to like 93, that's a higher risk area for longs. I certainly wouldn't be interested in any swing trade longs in this location. This is a place, like if you're going to do anything, you should be taking profit or considering aggressive shorts. Now, as you guys know, I'm not a big fan of shorting Bitcoin, especially on larger time frames. If I'm going to do it, I do it on small time frames, like a 1 minute chart. I don't mind that, but not swing trades because Bitcoin can get nuts. So that's all I can really say about this. Anyone that's projecting right now and saying, oh, this is the beginning of 500K, blah, 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 blah. That's just complete nonsense. Don't get fooled by any of that, please, because there's no way to know. We still have to break this bearish trend line, okay? We still have to at least, you could say it's sort of in the process of breaking, but it still has a little bit of ways to go here. It's got to prove itself. I wouldn't touch this thing long at these prices. Where were you at 80K? Where were you at 78K? That's where you should have been. Oh, yeah. Not now. Does that make sense? Any questions? Right. I'm selling you. All right, UTXO. That's yeah. That's aggressive for sure. Uh, yeah, all right. So, but you guys get the point. Okay? So that's what I'm looking for. So pay attention to those levels. Pay attention to a retest of 80K because that's where the opportunities are if it appears. Now, what if Bitcoin just blows through 90K? It can happen. In that scenario, right? I'd be looking for like a test of this high right there, and then you're looking for pullbacks. But the higher it goes, the better off you're working on smaller time frames. Now, this is where people have a hard time with me because the higher it goes, the more risk adverse I get and the more I warn people, right? And people hate that, especially like when we're fooling around up here and I'm telling people, don't buy it. Don't buy. Why not? It's going to go up forever. I'm going to miss out. Because I listen to you, I miss out all the time. I miss millions of dollars. I could have been a billionaire, but I listened to you instead. Okay. Okay, mister, banging it out at 78K. That's why I get more risk adverse at highs, right? So the more, if we do break resistances, consider mitigating your risk with smaller time frames. Work on the 5 minute, work on the 1 minute, take small bites until the market can offer more attractive levels. That's how I go about doing things. All right, makes sense? Okay, so that's Bitcoin. Let me know if you have any questions about it. Now I'm going to switch over to the NQ, unless you guys have questions. Let me see. I don't see anything here on the chat. Oh, I see something there. What's that? Hey, Alex from Romania. Alex, how are you? From Romania. I love Romania still. All right, cool. Yeah, I'm glad you like it. Yeah, I got more changes on the way. I just explained, like I'm going to be doing the market open 3 days a week. So that's the plan. All right. Anyway, I'm not going to re-explain that whole thing now. So I'm going to move over now. I don't see any questions about Bitcoin. By the way, everything that I said about Bitcoin, you can apply to most altcoins, right? So keep that in mind. You can apply this to like something like Ethereum because they're very similar. They're not exact, but they're very similar. You can also apply this to something like, XRP, which are similar. Oh, yeah, they're back, right? They had to go. They got kicked out of the U.S. because they're so controversial. They went to a few places and then they're out of here. Yeah, I guess I had nowhere else to go. All right. So a lot of drama. I mean, people who never even heard of them heard about them simply because they showed up over here. All right. So let's switch over here. Now we're going to switch over to the NQ, right? Now, this segment that I'm going to get into, this is going to be for futures traders. So let's go to, let's see, what can I use here? NQ1, right? Now, this is the futures contract at the CME. Now, here's the thing. So I'm going to run through these real quick, and then if we have some time, we can do some Bitcoin trades. It's 3:30 right now. This thing still trades. Now, keep in mind, this data feed is most likely delayed. Let me see. It doesn't say delayed. Maybe it's because I have the Tradeovate thing set up in here. I don't know. But I don't know if this is real time. I don't think this is real time. But it doesn't matter because we don't need real time data for this. What we're going to do is we want levels and we want structure. I don't need to know where the futures price is exactly at this moment in order to accomplish that, right? So if this is 15 minutes delayed, it doesn't matter. Usually it says it over here though, but I don't see that. Okay, anyway, so this is the NQ, the NASDAQ 100 futures. If you're not familiar with it, it's the QQQ, but it's the futures contract. It's wild, it's popular, everyone likes it because of its wild nature. So the analysis that I'm going to do here is going to pertain more to day trades because you could swing trade this thing, but the levels, you really have to wait a long time to get decent levels. All right. And if you're going to swing trade it, I would not really recommend the futures contract. And you can't swing trade with most prop firms because they do not allow overnights. If you can't if you can't hold overnight, then you can't really swing trade or dollar cost average. And they do that on purpose. I'm not going to get into that whole spiel right now. We'll talk about that when I stream, the futures session. But so for swing trades, you can consider something like the Qs, the QQQ. You can also do options, right? You can do options on the Qs. You can do options on the Nasdaq futures themselves, right? There's also a micro contract. This is the big contract, the NQ, but there's also MNQ, which is the same exact thing except it's 10 times smaller. So you can take advantage of options with that and stuff like that. All right. But again, when it comes to swing trades, you could just do smaller size on the Qs if your account can handle the margin. All right, so let's talk about this situation. Right, this is the daily chart on the Qs, and as you can see, it's kind of similar to that Bitcoin situation, is it not? I mean, Bitcoin had that massive pullback, right? Just like this thing. This thing now has this pop, this dramatic pop right now, which I guess caught a lot of people off guard. And this is a level again where you have to look at the support and resistance levels, right? So look where we are. This was a very important level that actually goes back. If you look at this level on the weekly chart, it's even clearer. When that level broke, that's when we sold hard. You see that? That's when we sold hard, and that's when that's where we were 3 weeks ago when everyone was going nuts and everyone thought the Nasdaq was going to zero. All right. So the Qs pulled into about 465. And that was represented by this bottom here. Since then, but the Qs were at like 490. I don't know where they are right now this moment, but they were at 490 earlier today. They were at 465 like 3 weeks ago at that bottom. Now, we've had this nice little bounce situation, and we're nearing resistance levels. So what does that mean? Well, you want to be aware of this area, okay? This entire area. What price is that? Let's see, I can't see it. 20,621, something like that. Okay. Uh, possibly. Yeah. So it is a resistant area. So here's how you can take this information. Number one, you don't go long now for swing trades. All right. Well, we'll get into the day trade aspect here in a moment, but you don't go long now. The long was here. Okay. The long was near the low. If you were going to go long, if you were going to take any chances, right, it should have been there. Now, of course, we could say this after the fact, but when something breaks a support like that and it starts to show signs like this, right, pin bar, remember, this is a daily chart. Then it has this little hesitation stuff over here. And then you have this double bottom, which is be much clearer, like on a 4-hour chart. That's where you should be thinking if you're going to do a swing trade long, meaning you're doing options, whether you're buying calls outright, you're doing call spreads, or whatever. You're buying the Qs outright. Maybe you're dollar cost averaging the Qs. The dollar cost averaging the Qs is not a bad idea. That's certainly a stock that's not going to zero. Okay, so if you were doing something like that, this is the area where you would consider something like that. Okay, not now. We're near resistance. Same story with Bitcoin, right? Same story. So now, if you're doing anything, first of all, if you're long, if you manage to get long, you're taking profits. Take something off the table. When you get vertical candles like this, you take something off the table. All right, let's just take a quick look at the QQQ, right? Because it's the same thing. Look, this is the QQQ. What are we at right now? 490 and a half. Okay, so I know we pulled back earlier. We pulled back a bit, but here we are back at the highs. It's 330 and we're closing on the highs. That's very powerful, but this is not something you want to get sucked into in a situation like this. All right. So if anything, you're taking profits or you're buying puts. That would be aggressive, or you're doing put spreads, right? You're doing bear put spreads where you're buying a put and selling a put below that to reduce the cost of the put. Those are the things that I would be considering in this area, but we have no confirmation. That's the problem. So entering in a situation like this is highly aggressive. And this thing may push further, right? I mean, the resistance now, the old support was 499, so 500 whole number. That's probably going to be a level going forward, right? So in the 490s, 495 to 500, that might be a good place. You can use the Qs to guide you on the futures, right? If you're doing futures, options, or whatever. So anyway, that's the bigger picture, right? Which is very similar to Bitcoin. Now, let's take a look. So wait, that would translate to, in the futures, that would translate to about 2694. And where are we right now? 2364. All right, so about 300 or 400 points higher, something like that. It would probably be, if you're going to go on the short side, if you're going to give that a try, that would probably be a better place to do it. And you want to use instruments like that. Again, this is not for day trades. Let's talk about day trades here real quick. So I'm gonna switch this to like a 15-minute, right, for just bigger picture, and I'm gonna open this up a bit, because what you can see here, this right here, this is the blue is pre-market. Pre-market, this thing. I mean, look, it gapped. It started out gapped, and it was just strong the whole pre-market, right? The open was here at 9:30. This was the open right there, right? And it's just been nothing but bullish. Had a little pullback consolidation, blah, 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 and that's it, right? So if you're looking at something like this intraday, let's make this nice and big. I mean, again, what do you do here? I mean, you can look, first of all, you have to wait until a level appears. And a level eventually appeared around here. Eventually. It took some time. You have to sit there and wait for a long time for it to get there, right? I mean, look at this. So this would be the area to be considering longs. And up here, obviously, you don't want to be buying it. Okay? Don't want to be buying it. Now, another interesting thing that people like to talk about, especially when it comes to futures, is this thing called opening range breakout. It's the first 30 minutes, the first 30-minute candle. So if I take the 15 minutes here, right, this one, and I just put two of them, right, the 10 o'clock candle, this is basically the opening range, right? Let me erase these two. And you can kind of use that as a guide. This is the opening range, those lines. See that? So you don't buy the breakout of the opening range because it can easily pull back, but the opening range boundary can be a level. So even if you don't want to sit here and wait for, like, when is a level going to develop, especially if you're fooling around up here. Remember, these are 15-minute candles. So you're sitting there 15 minutes, 30 minutes, and this thing looks like it's going to go to the moon, right? And then look, it retests what? The opening range boundary. So when you're looking at these things intraday, that's what you want to pay attention to, right? So as of right now, obviously there's nothing to do here. If I were in the account, if I was in the what do you call it, in the the evaluation account, I probably would be looking for the short here. You have two pin bars, broke the pin bar low, and that kind of thing. Right, but we're going to see what that would be the idea. But then we would let the Trade Scanner Pro confirm that, and then see what the if the Trade Scanner Pro can help us. All right, so that's the Nasdaq. The S&P, I'm going to switch over there, is going to be very similar. All right, so let's go to the ES1. This is the same thing, right? Hold on, ES1. Okay, it's the same idea. It's going to be very similar. The S&P is just a lot slower, but it moves. Okay, it's the same deal. And we're at highs also. And the opening range is the same situation. In fact, this is a little clearer. In fact, let me go to the 30-minute chart, because that's usually where it's the clearest. Okay. So here's our opening range low. We never even came close to that. And here's the opening range high. Coincidence? We pulled back. Look at all these touches of that level. So again, it's not something that you can just like step in front of and be like, oh, okay, I just bought it and I'm going to make money now. Because it can just break and revert back to the bottom. It can do all kinds of things, right? Markets are highly random. But it serves as an excellent reference point going forward. Being like, okay, that's a point you can look into. Like, for example, if we were pulling back, let's say this was 1:30 in the afternoon instead of 3:30. Let's say it was 1:30 in the afternoon. And by 2 o'clock, we're back at the opening range high. I would be looking for longs. And I would be using the Trade Scanner Pro to help me confirm a long. Does that make sense? Let's see what you guys are saying. All right. Hey, Mario, how are you? Welcome. Okay, cool. Right. So we'll see how things go. Now I'm going to go to the bigger picture here because it's the same story, right? The Nasdaq and S&P pretty much move together. It's just the Nasdaq is more wild. Look at these. Look at these candles. Look at Friday's candles. Look at that, right? So we shouldn't be dramatically surprised by this solid day that we're seeing right now. It's just you don't want to get sucked into this. You don't want to sit there and think that this is like, the new rally, everything is okay, because this can easily develop into a lower high, and we are in lower high territory here. See that? We are in the vicinity. So you guys now are ahead of the curve. You guys know better now. You shouldn't be buying here. You should be getting out, taking profit, reducing risk, all those kind of things. These are not attractive buy levels. These are attractive sell levels. Now, again, like I said before, to go short would also be risky here because we don't have anything, no point of reference, especially on this time frame. Remember, when I look at the daily chart, this is where we're thinking about swing trades. When I look at a 15-minute chart or a 30-minute chart, we're considering day trade levels. You have to be able to switch between the two modes. They're not the same exactly. Swing trade and investing has more flexibility. You can employ dollar cost averaging and that kind of stuff. Where day trades, you really don't have that luxury, especially if you're using a prop firm. All right, makes sense? Okay, cool. So, all right, so that's the S&P and the Nasdaq. Let me know. I know you guys are mostly not interested in that, but my new people that I'm looking to attract will be. So I might as well start getting into the habit of talking about these markets now. All right, any altcoins you guys want to see? Let's throw XRP on there because I know we have XRP fans, right? People who bought XRP at like 30 cents before the election. Something like XRP, it's an altcoin. I mean, it's similar to the Bitcoin situation, but not exactly. It has its own personality. It does its own thing because it has other catalysts that move this thing. But look, I mean, Bitcoin has that bear flag situation where we saw the minor lows and the higher lows and higher highs, those minor structures, same situation. Higher low, higher low. It's just not as dramatic. It's not rallying like Bitcoin, but the consolidation is clear. It's look, here's your low. And the 3 weeks ago, all of these things were pushing their lows. What a surprise. Was that 3 weeks ago? No, I think that was longer than that. Was that 3 weeks ago? Yeah, it was something like that. Something like that. There is only one altcoin I want to see, XMR. Okay, XMR. We could throw that on there real quick. All right, but you guys get the idea with something like XRP, right? You don't want to be buying this thing now. If you can't help yourself and you want to invest, again, you're in the middle of the range, right? So that's not really a great place to be aggressive. And you especially don't want to be aggressive up here. That's where you want to be taking something off the table if you have something. Now, again, there's always a struggle with greed. And when you're up at levels like this, let's say you bought XRP at 30 cents and you have all your position is, majorly green and you're like, wow, I'm going to be rich, right? But you get up here and you hold on and you're going to be stubborn. You say, oh, it's a good thing I held on for 30 cents all those 2 years. I would have missed this move. Right. But at some point, this thing is going to find a top and you're going to give back a lot of money. It's never a bad idea to take something off the table when the level warrants such a decision. And this would be a place to take something off the table. Maybe it breaks out. That's why you don't want to sell everything. And if it pulls back and you have an opportunity to buy some attractive levels again, you buy some back, right? And that's how you manage a position when you're dollar cost averaging over time. Maybe there's a more dramatic pullback than people expect, right? That's when your dollar cost averaging plan goes into play and you buy larger quantities at lower and lower levels, but you do it responsibly. I'm not going to get into all those details now. I talked about that like 2 streams ago. All right. Anyway. All right, so you want to see XMR? We'll do that real quick, and then we'll get into the Trade Scanner Pro. By the way, you notice I don't really have to say much about the Trade Scanner Pro because I have the perpetual ad on my screen. I'm going to make that overlay much better than that. As you can see, it says the 14-day free trial. I'm going to make that more uh, more clear, whatever. I'm going to give it some more emphasis so that I don't have to talk about it. You can just see it. Oh, and by the way, let me do my little special graphic. Don't forget to like and subscribe now that I can do this cool graphic that I could never do before. All right. Now, so Monero. I mean, look, let's look at a weekly chart real quick, right? What's the story with this thing? It rallied pretty much like everything else. It broke out of this range, similar to XRP and Bitcoin, right? Because Bitcoin's the leader. You have a range high established here. You have this high established. Looks like a failed high situation. We can go back a bit and see how those levels were relevant previously. Let's just look back here. I mean, yeah, so you have some relevance there, right? And then you have, so right now with something like this, I mean, you have higher lows, so it's following Bitcoin. If Bitcoin stays stable, maybe this thing breaks out, right? You have a higher low, but there's really not much to do here. This can also develop into a lower high or a failed high again or a double top, right? So if you have an opportunity to take some off the table or you're interested in taking some off the table, consider it at these levels. Maybe go slightly higher. Don't be stubborn with something like this. And then if it pulls back, you'll have the opportunity to buy more. At some point, they pull back. If this thing goes nuts, let's say it goes nuts and it really goes to a place that no one was expecting. Let's say it goes up here and you sold some and you're like, I shouldn't have listened to that bald guy. Okay, let's say at some point it's going to pull back from there too. And then you'll have an opportunity to get some at a better price than up here. Does that make sense? So that's how you got to play that game. You're basically averaging in and you're averaging out. And you can do that with anything that you believe in. If you believe in XMR, you believe this thing is not going to go to zero because they provide real value and all that kind of stuff. Okay. I hesitate to dollar cost average with instruments like this. If I do it, I'm going to do it with something like the Qs or something like the SPY because we're talking the best stocks in the NASDAQ, right? Or the best stocks in the S&P. And if one underperforms, they kick it out and they put a new one in. So you can dollar cost average with some degree of confidence. Even if the market gets hammered, this thing's not going to zero. These things are still higher risk compared to something like the NASDAQ or the S&P, okay? Or the IWM even. Does that make sense? Which is the Russell. All right. I've sold about half of my position. Okay, cool. So again, nothing wrong with that. Taking profits. If it goes higher, great. You have some more inventory to sell. If it pulls back, you can buy some, right? And a great area would be this old range high right there. That would be a good spot if it gives you that opportunity. All right. Okay, cool. Any other questions? Hey, Izzy, how are you? All right. All right, you guys. Let's move along here and let's do the Trade Scanner Pro, shall we? So I'm going to switch this now to my 2-chart view. And we're going to get off this weekly chart. We're going to change it to an hourly chart. If you want to know how the Trade Scanner Pro works, there's a link in the description. There's like a tutorial video that I have. It explains all the details. I don't have to explain it now again. Now we're going to change this over to Bitcoin. Now again, for this example today, I'm not using my prop account for this. Okay, I'm still using my TradingView practice account because, but I forgot to reset the account, so I'm going to have to do like half positions. Thanks to Nugs for informing me about that. But I'm not going to use the prop account because that's strictly for futures. I'm going to use that for the NQ only, right? Or if the ES, if we happen to do ES, but I'm probably going to just focus on the NQ or the MNQ and trade 1 or 2 contracts with that in the eval account. So again, the reason why I'm going that route is because here's how I thought of it. I can open up an account at MEXC, which I have, and we could try to put, mess around with $500 of real money and try to turn it into $1,000 or $1,000 of real money and try to turn that into $2,000, which is like pennies. No one cares. Or we can do an eval account, and which offers something where you can trade meaningful size and potentially get paid out That's the value proposition of a prop firm. Okay, I'm not going to get into all those details right now. I'll talk about that when I stream at that time. But again, we're talking a $50,000 prop account. It's not really $50,000, and it's actually, in reality, it's a practice account. But the thing is, if you beat the evaluation and you get to an account where they pay you out on, it's still a practice account. Actually, you never actually trade the real market. You trade a practice account, but they pay you out in the profits. The advantage to doing something like that is you can trade meaningful size with confidence. So with $1,000 account, you can't trade size. I have examples here. I can't trade 2 or 3 Bitcoin on a $1,000 account. I can't do that. Even like at 500 to 1 leverage, I probably couldn't do it, right? And I'd be taking a huge risk. I'd be wiping out big portions of the account if I was wrong. With a prop account, you have a little skin in the game, but it's relatively nothing compared to if you had real money on the line. So I think there's great potential there. Although, again, I have a lot of reservations with prop firms and their nonsense rules and stuff like that. Because after everything is said and done, they don't want you to make money. They're betting against us and they don't want to pay you out. I don't care how much, I don't care how nice the CEO is, and I don't care what kind of nice, uh, in interviews that he's done, honest interviews. Oh, I like this guy. He's so likable. He looks like me. I don't care what they say. They're betting their money against our money. They're betting we will lose. They're like a casino. All right, so don't get me started on that rant. But with all that being said, there is a I think a better potential than messing around with $1,000 account, right? When you can mess around with $50,000 of leverage and potentially get paid $1,000 or two, right? So anyway, more about that when I stream the market open, which again is going to be Wednesday. I'm not going to stream tomorrow, Wednesday. All right. So again, if you haven't done it yet, press the like and subscribe, right? My little fancy graphic. Let's talk about the Trade Scanner Pro. What time is it? All right, so the market's going to close in about 8 minutes. So the whole point of the Trade Scanner Pro, you see I got my little buttons up here so I can trade on the chart. I can buy and sell with these buttons instead of opening up the order book. Steen told me to do this like a year ago. So see, Steen, eventually I get to it. So we're going to use the 1-hour chart of Bitcoin to get our context. We want to figure out, should I be going long or should I be going short? Now, just so let's expand our 1-hour chart first to get this sense of context, because I want to know momentum and I want to know levels. Now, this is pretty clear. Higher lows, higher highs. It's strong. Okay. So I know that, but where are my levels now? Now, this is where things can get a little more confusing. So I'm going to look at old resistance levels like these back here. Those I'm going to anticipate as new supports. Am I going to wait for Bitcoin to get all the way back to these lows, whatever? No, that's not going to be in play, especially since I'm not going to be streaming all day, right? So I want something that I can do now. On this hourly chart, it looks like we also have some support right here. This is a minor support. Look at these tails on these candles and look at this old high over here. Check that out, okay? So those are notable levels. That's really all I need to know. Resistance, I have this. Pin bar, whatever. That's my resistance right now. I mean, if I go back, let's see. Do I have any meaningful resistance here? I'm going to have to look at a 4-hour chart because we haven't been here in a while. Let's see. Do I see anything up in this area? Let's look back here. Not really. I mean, I have something back here, but it kind of got blown through a bit, right? So there's something there. I'll just keep that as a note. So that's my support. That's my resistance. As a day trader, that's all I'm interested in because I'm interested in small bites, right? I'm only interested in working on my 1-minute chart. So I use my 1 hour to basically get a sense of, is the trend bullish or bearish? The chart answered that question. And then what are my levels? Support and resistance. So I'm going to use this as my support. 87.87, no, is that right? Yeah, 87.870 area. So 87.8, 87.7, somewhere around there, right? That's this area, this entire area right here. And my resistance is going to be, this is my max resistance, but there obviously we sold off from this point here. So what is that? 88.492, so 88.5, okay? Right now we are in between. We're at 88.214, so we're kind of in between. And this current candle, this 1 hour candle, was lower and it came back a bit. So I'm going to go with the bullish momentum, right? That's that's the decision that I have to make here before I use the Trade Scanner Pro. Because the Trade Scanner Pro is not a forecasting tool, as I've mentioned a million times. All of my regulars know that. All right, so so with this idea, right, again, we're gathering information to form our trade idea. Trade idea is we want to look for longs and we want to try to get long at support, right? I don't want to be buying near resistance. So long at support, that's the idea. Here's my 1 minute chart now. We're going to try to work with the 1 minute. This blue line is the blue line from that 1 hour chart that I just evaluated. Looks like, we're pulling back here a bit at the moment. The trend is bearish on my 1 minute. All right, interesting. So it's saying that the momentum is bearish. Don't be confused by this because the bigger picture we just analyzed is bullish. This is where you have to understand where counter trend comes in. This market is generally bullish. This isn't bearish. It's just consolidating right now. So because we had this move over here, the Trade Scanner Pro on the 1 minute is saying bearish because the momentum at the moment is bearish. But I want longs. I'm interested in longs. So what do I have to do? As you guys know, I'm going to have to go into counter trend mode. So let's open up the settings panel. Right? I have all my other settings here, which this is the way it should be set when you get the Trade Scanner Pro. I'm going to go into counter trend mode because I'm interested in longs. Do you understand how I came to that conclusion? So look, there was a long called over here when I put counter trend mode on. By the way, these columns are heads up columns. They highlight this orange candle, which tells us a signal is likely to appear in the next 3 to 5 candles. Why do I have a white spot on my nose? All right, anyway, this light sucks, man. I got to do something about that light. All right. So you guys following me so far? Let's see what you guys are saying. Okay, I don't see anything in the chat. So do you see how I arrived at this idea? I'm interested in longs. And it looks like we have some sort of, right, some support came there near our actual support line that I drew. So, all right, so we know that there's some kind of buying activity there. Maybe we get back there and maybe I get another signal. So at least I have some perspective at this point. I know my nose is shining. I know that this area is a place for longs, right? I know that this area is a place for longs. So if I get a signal up here, I mean, I should be open to it, but this is going to be more random. This area here is going to be more random than this area. Does that make sense? So I have a couple of choices here. I can wait for a pullback into this area and perhaps get a double bottom. Right? I can wait for something like that. And I can wait for the Trade Scanner Pro to give me a signal there because that's where I'd be anticipating a reversal. That's one thing I can do. The other thing I can do, which is way more aggressive, is I can go to a smaller time frame. Now, I hate doing this. Okay, I don't like doing this because I get stopped out a lot, right? But smaller time frames are very erratic. They're not what I recommend. When I say smaller time frame, I'm talking about like a 15-second chart, a 30-second chart. Something like this will probably show a signal. Let's see. Is it 4 o'clock yet? Yeah, it's the 4 o'clock candle right there. So here's the 15-second chart. Okay, as you can see, look at all these signals. And look at all these failing signals. Look at all these. Look, all these losing trades. Are they losing trades? No, this was a profit. That went to the profit objective. 82 points. How about this one? That one was a losing trade, 47 points. This one is a losing trade, 51 points. Right? But again, this is a 15-second chart, right? The point is there's going to be a lot of noise. These trades are noise trades. Right? But then look, this one worked. And that one actually is technically still in play. The profit or loss is generated by the profit objective. This one was 74 points. But if the trade is still active, it probably went more than 74 points. I really don't like the 15-second chart. Let's take a look at the 30-second chart. Anything here? Nothing here. Let's wait a little bit and see if we get something. So that 1 minute candle, look, the 4 o'clock candle right there gave us a tail, right? That's why you don't just buy into that. And that's one of the great things about the Trade Scanner Pro is there was no signal there. So I had no business even thinking about that. The whole point of the Trade Scanner Pro is to have a confirmation tool, right? It's to confirm the trade. So we have our idea. The Trade Scanner Pro needs to confirm the idea. I have my little buttons up here, right? So I'm gonna have to change this. The size is gonna have to be 0.5. Okay, because I forgot to reset my account. Oh, 0.5. Remember, I remember Nugs. I remember 0. Actually, maybe I could do 0.8. Maybe I can do that. We'll find. Actually, no. Let me do 5 because I know it'll fill me if I do 5. Right? 5. Does that stick? Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So that's what I'm going to do. But do you understand now? Like, so again, this thing helps me confirm. And you can say, well, this thing sucks because look, right? But I should know better. That I have to filter these out myself, right? When I see these if the trade doesn't make sense. Actually, this one probably would have made sense because we had a minor support there. I may have tried that one. All right, and that one clearly was a stop out. Let's see. Minus 120 points. Yeah. So Steen is actually working on an update where we're looking to filter out like something like this. And I talked about, I have these moving averages on my chart. I talked about this a few weeks ago, where you can use something like this to help filter out. Like, for example, see, I'm in counter trend mode right now, so this is not going to really apply in counter trend mode. But the idea would be if it's crossed over or if it's crossing over, see how it's crossing here? The moving averages are getting smaller. See that? Something like that should tell you not to get long. Like you shouldn't bother taking a long signal. But again, this is counter trend mode. So that really applies more to trend mode. Does that make sense? I'm going to turn these off because I don't like to use them. I just offered them as a way to help filter. In fact, we're trying to build that into the script so that it automatically does that filtering for you. All right, but he's working on it. Again, like I can't give you any kind of completion date because the guy, works a full-time job and he's trying to do this in between. So, we just have to be patient. But he's a good guy. He'll get it done. All right. All right, so you guys following me so far? You guys still watching? Anyone there? Have I put you all to sleep yet? I know UTXO is still watching. He watches me all the time. So I will be making more improvements to the stream, as you guys know. This is just the beginning of my improvements. It took me 3 years just to figure out how to get the green screen. Well, no, it's actually the old software couldn't do it. So this software does it much easier. That's why I was able to get this done. I'm still, all right. They can only endorse the 5-second chart. I understand. Not for me. No 5-second chart. I'm sorry. But I'm doing most of you a favor. All right. Well, let's see. So this thing's pulling back a bit. So we have our plan. I'm in counter trend mode because I want to see a long signal and I want to see it appear somewhere in this area. All right. In fact, I'll draw a little rectangle there. Okay. So you notice I'm anticipating. I'm not reacting to anything. I want to see a long signal somewhere in this area. The Trade Scanner Pro, what it looks for are pullbacks. That's what it wants to see. Now, when I'm in counter trend mode, which is what I'm in, what it does is it takes, instead of looking for a pullback on the side of the trend, right? Like something like this would be like if I was like on a 5-second chart or a 15-second chart, this bearish movement would be a trend, right? And it would be looking for a pullback in there. Counter trend mode looks for pullbacks regardless of the trend. Right, so it's a more aggressive mode and not something I recommend unless you are at a support or a resistance level specifically. We're looking at a support level here. We're looking at one, so that's why I'm in counter trend mode. If we were nowhere near support, because you could see we're near it. If we were like, for example, way higher, let's say we were like up here somewhere, something like this, where we're sort of in the middle. like up in this area, and my trend is bullish at that point, then I would turn counter trend mode off, because then I just want to follow the momentum at that point because I'm still interested in longs. Yes, I'm going to get worse prices, but I'm interested in following the momentum. Because why? The bigger picture is bullish, as we've determined. It's not bearish, right? We're just getting bearish movements on the smaller time frame. I may not get a signal here. Let's see. There's probably one on the 15-second. How much you want to bet? Let's see. What is that? That's the 1-second chart. Here's a 15. Oh, there is a signal. And look, see how quick that is? Look at that. Now, I don't want you jumping around. Don't jump around like, 5-second, 15-second, 30-second until something pops up, because that can be problematic. Just, pick your time frame and wait. Like I'm not going to do anything with this now. That was a nice little move. At least I know to be looking for longs. Okay, at least. Man, how much is that? Let's see. So the risk on this was 55 points. It's not bad for Bitcoin. The profit objective was 82 points. That's 1.5 to 1. And if I held on to some, man, this thing's going, it's 181 points. Not bad for risking 55 points, right? So I'm not going to chase it now. I missed it because I was looking at the larger time frame. Whatever, man. What am I going to do? Also, you'll notice the trailing stop is moving pretty quickly here. It's at break even right now. So if this were to pull back, the trade is technically risk-free. Now, if you see here, I'm getting a red heads up, right? And the reason why I'm getting that is because the mode, this says the trend is bullish, and I'm in counter trend mode. So it's actually looking for shorts. That's why it's showing this. So if I was long, I would have to just ignore that. You just have to ignore it, because we're not looking for shorts. So we'll just turn it off. If I turn this off, these trade lines will vanish also, because this trade was taken in counter trend mode. Because remember, at the time, the trend was bearish. In order for this to give us a long, the trend has to be bearish on this time frame. Yes, I realize that can be very confusing, but that's why counter trend mode requires more experience, right? And that's why I like to show that on these streams, so you can see this over and over again, and then eventually learn how to apply that yourself. Okay, so look how quickly my trailing stop has moved. Wow. Anyway, I'm not in the trade, so it doesn't matter. Let's take a look. Let's just go back to our 1 minute. Let's just see what's going on there. Anything here? No. Now look, my trend has changed on the 1 minute. Before it was bearish, remember? Now it's bullish. So if I'm going to look for trades on my 1 minute, what do I have to do? Let's see who's paying attention. Remember, I'm only interested in longs, and I'm in counter trend mode right now. So if I want to take trades, what do I have to do? Who can tell me? Let me read the chat. All right. Who can tell me? You can also say, I don't know. I don't know is an acceptable answer. What do I have to do? Like I'm interested in long. I'm not interested in shorts. I'm not going to short this. This thing's going to give me a short signal soon if I stay in this mode. What do I have to do? Anyone? The chart isn't being blocked by anything, is it? Because I have like this menu over here, and I hope it's not blocking. You could see the candles, right? You don't see like a menu over here where my pointer is? You don't see a menu there, do you? You shouldn't. I hope you don't see a menu there. Turn off the counter trend mode. You guys got it. Do you guys see a menu over here by any chance? I'm just curious to see what you see. Let me turn this on. Let me see if you guys. Chart is clear. Okay, cool. Okay, just want to make sure that there's no menu, because I see a menu on my control screen. I see a menu there, and you guys, it would be blocking this price action. So, yes, you guys are correct. turn off counter trend mode. So I turned it off. See? And it all vanished. See that? Now it's back in trend mode. So what happens here is as long as this stays green and this pulls back, it's going to be looking for longs. And that's what I want, longs. So you have to pay attention to that. Now, the new version that Steen is working on, we're actually going to get rid of these menus over here, and we're gonna instead have like a status line on the bottom of the chart, which is basically going to convey the same information, just easier on the eye. Instead of having to look in this corner and what does that say? You don't have to do that. Like, you know, it takes a while for these things to evolve. So anyway, all right, let's take a look at the 30-second. I'm going to jump around a little bit because I want to see if we can find something here. The 30-second is also bullish. All right. So I would like to go long. Yes, I would. Back to, let's just take a look at that 15-second again. Right. The 15-second is also bullish now. They're all bullish. So I don't need to be in counter trend mode anymore because everything is bullish. But remember when we first looked, it was all bearish. Remember that? And this is where the trade was called over here, while the market momentum was bearish on this time frame. So it caught this beautiful long. Too bad I wasn't in it. All right. So we'll watch this for a little bit more. Let's see. Let's go back to 30-second. We need a pullback. Like if there's no pullback, I'm not going to get any signals. And I'm not going to go to a 5-second chart. Now, here's one thing I want to do real quick while we're here. Let's take a look at let's go to the MNQ. Okay. This is the NASDAQ futures. Let's just take a look at it. MNQ1. And let's just see what the Trade Scanner Pro would have done. Let's just take a quick look at some of these, like a trade review here. The market is closed now, so I wouldn't take any trades on this. But let's look back. Were there any good trades? Let's see. Let's look back at like the open. Anything good here? Or let's see, or is it a complete mess? Let's take a look. Okay, so this is the, remember, I'm not in counter trend mode. I'm in trend mode right now. So it's showing trend trades, right? Trades that were called with the trend at the time. Look at this trade. Looks like this one was a stop out at 10 o'clock. 26 points. On the NQ, that's $50. That's like 50. That's like 50. That's like $52. All right, on one contract. How about this one? Let's see, what's this one here? Profit, 35 points. Okay. So that's like $70. All right, on one contract. So during the market open, wow. What time was this trade? 10 after 10. Okay. All right, so that's like within a reasonable. There were only 2 trades. Look at that. There were only 2 trades in that period. Okay, now this one shows a 35-point profit, but that's based on the profit objective. That's not this whole move. So, and we can replay this real quick. Let's just replay it real quick because this is what I'm going to be dealing with when we do this in real time. So let's just replay this. To do this on this time frame, you have to have like the full version of TradingView. So this is the NASDAQ. This is the MNQ, which is the micro contract at that time. Let's just see how this played out. Right? We know this is a winning trade. This is how it played out. Let's see. We know that it goes to the 35 points. See that right there is a 35-point profit objective. Now let's see, like, just does it stay in the trade the whole time? Let's see what it does. Or does the trailing stop tap it out? Let's see. And let's see how much this trade was worth at its peak. So far, it's still going. Oh, getting close to the trailing stop. A lot of hesitation here. Okay, it stopped out there. Okay, so at its peak, this is what it was worth at its peak. Let's measure that real quick. So this was the entry candle right here. So at its peak, 60 points. At the peak, 60 points. Now, am I going to get the peak? Probably not. But that's $120 per contract. okay, before it tapped the trailing stop. Now, when we play that game, we're going to have a problem with the trailing stop, and the reason for that is the prop firm. Remember, they have their own rules, and the trailing stop is not going to be uh, effective, I should say, within their parameters. All right, I'll go over that when we get to that, but that's going to be the reality of that. Anyway, that was interesting. But there were only 2 trades at that time. See, it's not like the market opens and you have like 10 million trades. All right, let's go back to our Bitcoin. Let's go back here. Oh, I have to type it in. Okay, hold on. Makes sense, you guys? So we're going back to our MEXC chart. This is 30. Oh, that was 30 seconds. When you're training, what is your opinion on using something like 1,000 tick chart? So tick charts, it's going to be comparable. 1,000 tick, I think, is going to be comparable to like a 5-minute chart or something like that. It's just because it takes like 5 minutes for 1,000 ticks to be generated. Tick charts can be helpful, I think, when you're in slower environments because it takes forever. Like the candle won't paint unless transactions are happening. So it has to complete 1,000 ticks. So I think that's the only time it's really more beneficial. The Nasdaq is usually fast. So in a fast market like that, I don't think it really helps. I don't think it really, like, you could use that. You could use range bar charts too. People use range bar charts. But I think to play that game, just to work with the Nasdaq, you have to use a variety of pieces of information to come up with the perspective. Like basically, are we in a selling area or are we in a buying area? And based on that, we're going to have to play our game. So we'll have to see how that goes. But I personally, I'm not a big fan of time charts, but in this situation, I'm going to use time charts. Okay. So anyway, it's a good question. So we got nothing happening here. We have this consolidation happening, right? Look at this. You have that situation. I'm not here to trade chart patterns. I can be aware of them, but I'm not going to sit there and say, "Oh, we have a bear flag." Blah, blah, blah. I'm not doing that, right? All I want are levels, and I want confirmations. We know that we should be working on the long side, so I'm not going to short something like this. The pullback should be an opportunity to go long. Now, again, this is a 30-second chart. So maybe we'll get like a decent little pullback here, and we'll get a trade out of that. I'm sure if I go to a smaller time frame, like a 15-second, we're probably going to see something much sooner. See, look, we have the heads up. See the heads up candle? The green column, it's the heads up. So that tells us that a trade signal is likely to appear in the next 3 to 5 candles, which in this case is the next minute or minute and a half. So, all right, we'll play that just because I want to show a trade. Now, sometimes when I force trades like this, it's usually not a good idea. But again, this is a practice account. It's not even the eval account, so it doesn't really matter. But I just want to show the script in action and to see like what it can actually do when you put a trade on, even if it's on paper, right? Because I also want you to understand the thought process behind the trade. So look, we're getting some heads up. Okay, all right. We have this movement that we had here, that 15-second movement, right? This movement right here, this structure may be in play, and maybe we get a higher low from that. Okay, maybe it goes back to the 50% point. Maybe we get a higher low. Again, Bitcoin is strong. It's not weak. We just get these little weak formations where it pulls back a bit. But if I'm not using a tool like this, I may get fooled into thinking that this is a short. And look, there's some short signals here. This one probably was profitable. Let's see. Oh no, that was a losing trade. How is that a losing trade? Huh, that's weird. Anyway, looks like it went the right way to me, unless it stopped out over here somewhere. Maybe it stopped out over here on this move. But I don't want to be short anyway, right? This is not the time to be short. It's not like we're sitting at a resistance level or we're at some kind of major, high or something like that. We're not. We're nearer the support, right? Here's our support. We came off of it. Our momentum is generally bullish and our bigger picture is bullish. All that bullish stuff lines up. So don't be fooled by stuff like this. Oh, it's turning around. It's a bearish. It's not bearish. You can try, but the probability is not on your side. Look at it that way. It really is like playing poker where you have a certain hand, you're at a certain position at the table, people are betting a certain way, and certain things line up that tell you I should play this hand this way or not. Right? You may have a good hand, but it may not be wise to play it a certain way because of other factors. So you have to look at this in a similar way for all you poker players out there. All right. So we'll wait. We're getting some heads up here. So let's see if we can get a signal. So when I'm doing this with the Nasdaq, I'm going to be very conservative. Like I said, I'm probably not going to go to a 15-second chart. I'll probably go as low as like a 30-second, and I'll look between 30-second and like 5-minute, like that range of time frames, and that's it. If I don't get a signal, I don't get a signal, right? Because again, I have an eval account now at stake, so it's not a lot of money at stake, but it's a little money. There's a little skin in the game, right? And I can blow the account. So we're going to see how that works. Oh, there's our signal. All right, let's buy one. Well, half of one. Okay, so I just bought half of one. I bought half a coin. And let's see what happens with this. Now, keep in mind, if this stops out, I have to manually bang it out. I'm going to have to press the sell button. Look at that. We're straight to it. I'm going to have to bang it out. There we go. It's probably a fake out too. Because I'm not going to have the time here to set up the stop and all that stuff. And I'm going to have to do the same thing with the NASDAQ. I'm just going to manually do it, which is not a great idea. I'm just going to tell you up front. It's not the best way to go about that. Like really what you should do is you should be everything should be preset. Look, this thing's going to be a double. If it gives me a double long, I'm going to buy it again because this is a failed low. Oh, this is the 15th. Yeah, it's a 15-second chart. Figures. All right. Let me just take a quick look at the 1 minute. Is there anything on the 1 minute? Because that's a decent little pullback. Nothing on the 1 minute. How about 30 seconds? We're getting heads up on the 30 seconds. So if we get a signal here, I'll take it. I like the 30-second chart way better than the 15-second chart. So look, we tried one. It failed like right away. All right. So the loss was small on that. What am I going to do? UTXO is so liquid and so fast. I would highly recommend live stops over. Well, yes, I agree. You have but the thing is, for my example, I don't know how I'm going to be able to set the stop fast enough. Usually a platform lets you, when you place the order, it automatically places an OCO. So your stop and your profit objective are set the moment you get in, right? That's usually how it goes, but I don't think I can do that on here. I don't think I could set all that up on here. I have to look into this further because I'm going to be using TradingView to place the orders. Look at this move. I would have liked to have been in that. Let's see. Is there a 15-second signal? No. Okay, maybe I'm going to have to use a 15-second. Let's see if we get a signal. Maybe we get one soon. If we're going to get one, it'll appear here before it appears on the 30-second. Now, see, I'm paying attention to this too. See, this just turned red. So now at this moment, I'm not going to get longs unless that's green. So it's just fluctuating around. It's probably going to turn green like right now. See, it's green again. So that means it's on the border of turning red, which means if it breaks below this low, it's probably going to turn red and I'm going to have to go into counter trend mode. All right, so that's something you have to pay attention to. But again, we're working on a fix for that so that it's more obvious. All right. Man, this long wasn't really that bad of an idea. It was just the stop was too tight. But what am I going to do? I'm not going to re-enter unless I get a signal. because, again, you may run into one of these situations where it just keeps pulling back and keeps pulling back, and you keep buying it and it keeps pulling back. All right. I don't want to do that either. So let's see what happens here. We'll give it a few more minutes. If I don't get a signal, then I'll just turn it off. Fix my lighting situation over here. But yeah, so UTXO, I take it that you trade the Nasdaq. You must be familiar with it if you're making a comment like that. Because yeah, that thing is so fast. You really do need preset orders. So man, that would have been nice to be. Look at that. Now it's going to run without me. All right. Let's look at our 30-second. I'm not even going to look at the 5 second. Look at this. 30 seconds. Ah, I missed it. This wasn't there 2 seconds ago. Well, you see the Trade Scanner Pro is at least steering us the right way. Thing's almost at its profit objective. That would have been nice. I just looked at this thing like just a few seconds ago. There was nothing there. They're watching me. Oh, by the way, I'll be able to play music. I don't have the music set up because this software handles music much better. So I'm actually going to be able to play some music, so you don't just have to hear my monotone voice the whole time. We can actually play some music behind the stream. Hopefully, I'll have that set up for Wednesday. But I'm not going to have anything, overpowering. Just probably some loungy type of stuff, relaxing, something like that. All I need is just a drink, like an umbrella drink kind of music. I used to trade the ES and a little bit of NQ. They're even faster. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, yes, they are. That's right. Here, can I show that? Let's see. Oh, look, I can show your comment. Check that out. How cool is that? That's your comment. So, yeah, I used to, yeah, sort of, but it's a little bit better than elevator music, though. It's a little bit better than that. Um, I mean, thing is, I have a choice of any music. Like I can play like anything, and I've been listening to some stuff, but I don't want to have something that's too like in your face because then it's kind of gonna get in the way. You know what I mean? We have enough to deal with. But yeah, I remember back in the day, the S&P and the Nasdaq were much more tame. These days, man, they're wild. I remember when the S&P, it would take an entire day for the S&P futures to move 10 points. The entire day it would take. Today, it does 10 points in like a couple of minutes. It can do 10 points. That actually, I can't play that. I can't. It has to be royalty free music. I don't think I'd be able to play that. Although I should be able to. I don't think the source of music that I'm getting doesn't have. I don't think it has that. It might. I have to look. But that is actually much more relaxing music. All right, look. See that blue line? I'm going to buy this because we went to the blue line, the entry line. Even though this trade has been in play, sometimes you could see it retests the entry price, and that could be an opportunity to still take the trade or re-enter or add to the trade, right? Like, so for example, if you're in a 5-minute situation, right, you're watching a 5-minute chart and this trade is open and 15 minutes go by and this thing pulls back to your entry price, that may be another opportunity to take that 5-minute trade that you missed 15 minutes ago, right? Does that make sense? So that when you get a retest of the entry price, sometimes it can offer an opportunity. So I'm giving that a try. In fact, I bought at the top of that candle, right? I bought right at the top of that candle, which is not the best price. If I was going to, I should have really been paying closer attention to when we went to the blue line, but I was too busy talking to UTXO. I have to blame someone. I'm not going to blame myself. All right. So, and this may stop out. I'm going to blame him for that too. So the trailing stop has moved here, and it's reduced my risk in half. I may have to blow this out at the trailing stop. Let's see. Now, if we touch the blue line again, I'm not going to add to this. In fact, I don't think I can. I have to reset this account, this practice account. Again, this is not real money. But this is not even an eval account. This is just a pure practice account from TradingView. So there's nothing at stake here. But again, touching the blue line again could be an opportunity to add. It could be. But again, I'm not going to do that. We're just going to see where this goes. If I get tapped out, no problem. We'll be done with it. If not, the profit objective is what we're looking for. The nice thing about the Trade Scanner Pro is it presets all of this for us, so we know what to expect. We know what to anticipate, right? I know where I should be getting out. If I'm wrong, it looks like we're on our way there, and I know where I should be getting out when I'm right. Okay, or if the trade runs away, the trailing stop will follow it, and then I can capture more than I normally would. I accept the blame for okay. Oh, yeah. Look at that. I got to bang it out. All right. It's UTXO's fault. This stupid thing. What am I going to do? All right. Well, this is a bad time to be doing this anyway, right? It's the market's closed. It's 4:30. Usually you don't get really very meaningful movements. We missed the good one, right? The good one was over here. We missed it. And now I'm involved in the garbage, and I'm getting caught up in the garbage here. All right, I'm not going to keep going at it. We tried a couple, and you saw how it played out. All right, so I'll leave you with that. Let me know if you have any questions, you guys. So again, let me just see the time. Yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. So again, my plan is to stream at the open on Wednesday, and we're going to look at the NQs or the MNQs, and we're going to use the Trade Scanner Pro to take trades on my eval account, right? And we'll talk more about it at that time. Okay? So, and hopefully I have this lighting situation improved and all that stuff. Any questions, you guys? I'm glad you guys like my new setup here, my improvements. I got more coming. It's going to be huge. It's going to be a stream, right? Right. I know who you're imitating. I can't do good impressions of him, but anyway, yeah, it'll be interesting, and hopefully I'll have some music on, and we'll have some fun with it, and we'll see how it goes. I'm expecting to see a new group of people at that time because I normally don't stream at that time. All right, so we'll test it out, and we'll see how it goes. And by the way, guys, let me press my fancy little button here. Don't forget, like, subscribe, and all that other stuff. I really appreciate that. It helps me out. Okay, so other than that, you know where to find me, marketmarkpremarkets.com. You could send me an email. You could send me a message on TradingView. And if someone pretends to be me and you get a message initiated by me to you, or from Steen or from Alex or whatever, and they're looking for money, it's a scammer. Please don't get scammed. All right, report them, block them, all that stuff, and protect yourself. All right, everyone. So again, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your evening, wherever you are in the world. And again, thank you for watching.